Honestly, I spent ungodly amounts of time exploring and deciphering virtually any mystery the internet has thrown my way. I've sunk countless hours of sheer confusion into questions like the Dyatlov Pass incident, or into folklore surrounding humanoid entities, and into subsequent search for patterns shared across cultures. And God, how I got lost in the wilderness of the missing 411 phenomenon. Some might deem this hobby pointless, lacking substance, or they could even say it's childish. Why bother with what's presumably a fabricated mystery, a hoax, or worse, a conspiracy theory? It's not practical. It doesn't teach you any skill. I vehemently disagree. On the contrary, I believe our love for mysteries is one of the fundamental key elements that holds our culture, civilization, and subsequently humanity together. There is this peculiar situation. Mystery enthusiasts might be one of the largest, most diverse, yet surprisingly relatively uncontroversial internet communities in the world. Yes, of course, there have been recent efforts to portray those terrifying conspiracy theorists as a bane of humanity and enemies of truth. But this mainstream narrative is achieved through heavy cherry-picking and obscuration of the bigger picture. If Wendy Gunn's Meteoric Rise with his Conspiracy Iceberg series has shown us anything, it's that the world of mysteries and conspiracies is far larger than the senile elites and soulless propagandists could ever imagine. They are simply too out of touch to be relevant in the context of this topic. So back to the point. The mystery community isn't inherently ideologically polarizing. It's not even close to being so politicized as the rest of the internet. This is the fact even for the political mysteries. The motivation isn't to win a political argument, but the beauty of untangling a puzzle. It's one of the last bastions of genuine human expression. It's the search for the truth. And this community is also not as noticeably toxic as is the gaming community, which I do love, but we all somewhat know it's kind of a psychopathic. And it's also not as superficial as, I don't know, the makeup community. And of course, there are exceptions to everything, and maybe your personal experience is different. Feel free to share it in the comments down below, or you can hop into the Discord channel. Link in the description. But personally, it seems to me that the mystery community strikes a perfect balance within itself. First, there is the ever-present inclusive humanness. Everyone is welcome. Second, everyone is experiencing a shared sense of wonder, resulting in collective fascination. And finally, we all get to engage in mental effort and try to solve a puzzle together. In this spirit, I'd like to have a fun with the puzzle of mystery itself. So, within the upcoming show, I shall tackle the question, why we love mysteries. Welcome to Magnae Mirare. The English word mystery derives its etymology from ancient Greek, specifically from the word mysterion, meaning a secret to be revealed, or in the Alexandrian dialect, a knowledge of natural science that must be learned. Mysterion itself comes from the word mystes, meaning someone who is initiated. This word inherently holds the promise of something to be explored, and from which observations about the world can be drawn. It's a completely natural instinct. Knowledge is what keeps us alive. Knowledge is what helps us to improve. Knowledge simply embeds us in the framework of the truth of our universe. This instinct of exploration is, of course, what we simply call curiosity. And through this curiosity, we set goals worthy of our brain and time. But of course, many times such goals are mundane. There are plenty of common human questions. Is the food good in this restaurant? I don't know, it's a mystery. Is it though? These common human questions are not exactly the level of mystery we seek. And that's because, in economic terms, their price is set lower. There are a lot of them, making them readily available. They are low effort. But most importantly, we can simply conceptualize the type of answers we will find. The food in said restaurant may be good, bad, or something in between. What we really like are the real deep mysteries, the events and incidents in which we not only do not know what happened, but also we cannot even fathom any kind of simple answer that would satisfactorily explain the mystery. The mysteries that leave us in the state of, what the hell? These are the mysteries which do not have a simple answer. Even the most straightforward answer that we can imagine would turn our view of the world upside down. Let me give you an example. As I mentioned, I absolutely love the topic of other humanoids, especially the little people. We have countless folk tales on our hand. South American duende, a whole plethora of Native American little people, Irish fairies, European gnomes, etc. And then you have the frightening number of people who claim they have seen or experienced something. And then you connect it all and find out that cultures all around the world, regardless of how large is the ocean that separates them, agree that these beings speak in whistles and chirps, that they don't like brightly colored clothing in the forest, and that they get very angry when you steal berries right before winter. And now the answers you can imagine. It's a very specific psychological problem, shared by all of humanity, mixed with reasonably meant tips and tricks such as don't be conspicuous in the forest. So that's the first kind of answer. It's an incredibly weird widespread psychological ailment. One for which we have no explanation. Or a second possibility. It's our ancestral memory of multitude of parallel species that we have witnessed to go extinct in the last 100,000 years. Or maybe the rabbit hole goes even deeper. Imagine that some of them survived long enough so that few last meetings could actually occur in the last few centuries. Or let's continue. They are the surviving remnants of previous advanced civilization, and their technology is what shaped our entire concept of the magic these beings supposedly wield. There is a lot of empty space in our knowledge of ancient times, and as we all know and feel, civilizations can disappear rather quickly. Okay, I want to try last one, I promise. They are telepathic results of a huge forest organism, interconnected mycelium and plants, trying to communicate with us through images that are somewhat familiar to our brain. Well, I don't know, and that's what's so thrilling about it. Any of these answers, even the most ordinary one, that it's some kind of a psychological problem of ours, is absolutely captivating. What is the mechanism? How does it work? I don't know. But whatever answer we find, we have a pretty good guarantee of a breakthrough in some scientific field. But such breakthroughs are hindered by two obstacles: misused Occam's razor and normalcy bias. Occam's razor serves as a guiding principle for selecting solutions. The simplest one is often the true one. However, its applicability thrives in the realm of simplicity, where the questions are not overly complex. And most importantly, it works well within domains where one already possesses a profound familiarity. In a sense, one must have a good understanding of the whole field to be even capable of discerning what simplicity means in terms of said field. This is a statistical method for minor problems. It has no exploratory and creative potential. Let me illustrate. Quantum physics is definitely not the most intuitive and straightforward answers to the question of the structure of our universe. Such a solution was, there is nothing smaller than atoms. And everything else that contradicts this is a global problem of our psyche combined with measurement errors. Occam's razor doesn't create geniuses. It just cleans up after them. And that's okay. Exploration and creativity are immensely chaotic. They need to be tidied up so that some socially transferable and understandable truth can be extracted. And this truth will then help us further explore new and new phenomena. However, one of the sins of humanity is a resistance to creative thought which can lead to a new discovery. Mediocrity hates creativity. In general, all we really do is that we refine 100 years old secular knowledge without adding anything culturally worthy. And yes, we all feel that things are changing: AI, automation, quantum computers. But these are done by considerably crazier people than those who then talk about academic or rational qualities. And the results speak for themselves. The most creative and brilliant people who really contribute to our society believe in the craziest things. And many times, if they draw inspiration from old knowledge, it's not the secular one, it's the ancient and sacred one. Who holds the truth? Our normal, mediocre, secular individual who seems to be unable to produce anything creative, or the crazy mystic who, in his reverence, mixed with radical curiosity, is propelling us forward? Occam's razor, in a sense, embodies an academic manifestation of widespread human tendency known as normalcy bias. Normalcy bias, in its broader sense, not in its Wikipedia definition, is the human tendency to anticipate mediocrity. It's a natural instinct to expect statistical averages. Yet this instinct, through sheer hubris, often translates into a demand for mediocrity that is imposed on the world. I am not saying being normal is bad. It is incredibly important to have a stable life, to have a sense of order. And I am not criticizing normal, ordinary people. There is beauty in normal existence. What I am criticizing here are people who profess mediocrity as ideological statement. And with this statement come the negative aspects of normalcy bias. It makes one blind. He becomes a being of pure, unimaginative order, and can't stand chaos at any level. And okay, of course we don't want pointless chaos. But chaos, in its positive aspects, is incredibly important due to its creative potential. Perhaps it is normalcy bias that helps us survive our lives, but it is definitely not the way we find meaning and vision to move forward. After all, if we lived just by this tenet, we would still be climbing trees. Or more probably, we would still be swimming in the ocean. It is precisely the dreaming of improbable and impossible that propels us forward. It's our love for mysteries and the desire to unravel them. However, when someone completely controlled by their normalcy encounters a real mystery, one that is capable of turning our worldview upside down with any imaginable answer, then such person reacts with unexpected aggression. Such a person is teeth and nails clinging to the simplest, most limited type of truth there is. And he opposes any attempt to answer such a mystery. Even worse, he opposes even the attempt to formulate and ask necessary questions. Humanity was always like this. It is not a modern phenomenon that keeps us in normality. Under the guise of false modern rationality, under all those contrived Occam's razors, and under all the trust we give the selected few experts, there is simply a lack of imagination, combined with hatred for the idea that there is something we do not understand about the world. And this has been happening throughout human history. If someone had unorthodox views, or even possessed a type of knowledge that was radical, he was immediately threatened. And if he made the mistake of expressing this knowledge, he would be burned at the stake. So, what did such people do? They desperately sought those they could trust. And the few chosen ones, who were somehow found, built enough trust among themselves not to be afraid to share their mysterious knowledge. They became initiates, mystai, those who guarded this knowledge. Knowledge, which among other things, resulted in the science now so celebrated. Alchemists, hermetics, mystical cults, they all had to hide from the world, just because they had the audacity to claim that the whole world is not yet known, that there are still mysteries hidden in it, and that the ordinary person does not know all the answers. And now that the cat's out of the bag, there is a general push to conceal the fact that the very same mediocrity-driven people who celebrate only the most materialistic and limited aspects of scientific progress are also the ones who would readily burn at stake those who brought us here through the sheer virtue of researching mysteries. From here, of course, stems the fear of conspiracies. From its Latin origin, conspiro, meaning to breathe together. You can see a relation with spiro, to breathe, and the spirit. These people, united in spirit, whispered together the knowledge that they deemed too dangerous to be spoken out loud. And rightfully so. People really dislike freethinkers. There is this phenomenon of antiquity called mystery cults, also known as sacred mysteries. These were groups that held sacred and often ancient knowledge deep within their midst. One of the most famous ones are the Eleusinian mysteries, which for at least several hundred years kept alive secrets of divinity, life, death, and the general nature of human existence. And most probably there were also psychedelic practices involved, but due to the secretive nature of mystery cults, precise and concrete informations are naturally scarce. However, considering the length of time of their existence and considering how crucial they were as a cultural phenomenon, we can at least say that this hidden knowledge must have had some merit. Human culture does not tend to spend time on frivolities, and that's purely because evolutionary reasons. Culturally, things that are not at least somewhat beneficial tend not to survive long term. And here lies an important point. Incomprehensible mysteries, strange religious imagery, and ancient tales, if we've been passing them down for centuries, if not for millennia, then we've been passing them down for a reason. And of course, we've been passing them down in a ciphered manner, because they hide knowledge. And as mentioned above, people kill for the sin of knowing more often than they are willing to listen. If I return to the legends about little people, a common connecting motif in these stories is the fact that they frequently appear only to chosen and favorite individuals, most often shamans and children. This is the case for Nirumbe from Crow folklore, or Kowi Anukasha from Choctaw folklore. Shamans are needed to communicate with South American duende, and of course Celtic fairies are strongly linked with the abduction of children and carefully chosen individuals. And regardless of what one thinks about the phenomenon or its origin, this is a common cross-cultural trait. And this may have something to do with the fact that children have not yet lost their childish imagination, and shamans are trying to hold on to it by all means, as it is, essentially, their spiritual craft. These chosen ones are often given mysterious magical knowledge by the little people. These bizarre beings specifically choose those who have an open mind. And of course, the modern phenomenon of UFO abductions is associated with similar motifs. Jacques Fabrice-Vallée, a computer scientist, ufologist, and notorious pattern noticer, proposed this connection between old folk tales about fairies and the UFO phenomenon back in the last century. And wherever the truth lies, even if it's only a widespread psychological or cultural phenomenon, it shows us one important thing. We have an incredible fascination and obsession with the existence of forbidden, secret knowledge, and there is something important that makes children and shamans open to this knowledge. And that is imagination and sense of wonder. In other words, these are the people who feel the magical nature of our world. I want to spend a brief time talking about the concept of magic and its cultural meaning. I suppose we have all heard the idea that if you would pluck out an individual from the ancient times, and if you would describe to him our technology and our modern world, he would understand all of it as magic. You know, for him it would be like magic. But what I think is a better approach to this is to realize that it would not be like magic. It would literally be magic. The same thing that the word magic was always meant to mean. Our technology, objectively, is magic. There is an invisible force of electromagnetism that will kill any individual if he handles it unwisely. But otherwise, it is capable of powering our whole civilization. And this magical force can power a shamanic mirror that lights up on your desk and shows you any place in the world and lets you listen to this rant. And those few chosen ones who know the ways and powers of programming languages are able to simply with words change the world. This is objectively magic. Even if you'd explain it in excruciating detail to that prehistoric shaman. Even if he ended up with an engineering degree. there would still be no contradiction between what it is, how it works, and the concept of magic itself. For him, this deep understanding, which he now would wield, would still be obviously and precisely what magical power means. We humans like to trivialize what we understand. Christ's sake, you are able to, through sheer power of your will, move your arms and legs. This is objectively telekinesis. We just don't like to call it this way, because it would force us to think about the world in miraculous terms. But just because something is mundane, it doesn't mean we have to strip it of all meaning. This is the whole damn process of disenchantment of the world. But we do it completely to our detriment. Because if we deprive ourselves of the ability to think in miraculous terms, we as a society will stagnate and die. Because this will kill all our imagination and creative power. There are two specific reasons why I made this video. The first one is that I wanted to philosophically justify to myself and to the world that I will unapologetically delve into mysteries occasionally. Specifically from the perspective that I would like to break the monotonous situation on the internet, where everyone keeps repeating the same facts over and over, but only few truly build new hypotheses, new knowledge, and so on. However, the second reason is that I firmly believe that we need to re-enchant our world. We need to surround ourselves with mysterious and fascinating mythology, not with the goal of becoming confused and lost in the uncertainty of supernatural chaos, but rather because we need to begin building a framework within ourselves that allows us to grasp chaos. Because chaos isn't going anywhere. We need reasonable ways to cope with the fact that the world, or at least our psychology, experiences supernatural or chaotic phenomena. Ordinary people around the world are subjected to incredible pressure stemming from the unimaginative mainstream human society simply because they have personally experienced something that doesn't fit into the most mundane perception of the world. This pressure, offensive and degrading, is exerted just because someone questions the oh-so-great world of material rationalism. The same rationalism which, when fetishized by ideologies of modernity, was responsible for the worst atrocities in human history. But we humans are not machines. We are not numbers. We are not beasts. We dream of the impossible, and we long for wonder. This is the inner desire that drives the popularity of unsolved mysteries. We construct modern mythology around ourselves. A mythology that becomes a pillow, softening the blows of the forces that are trying to convince us that our universe is dead, empty, meaningless, and without purpose. And that's because unsolved mysteries are a promise of something bigger. They are incredibly filled with potential. And this is why we love unsolved mysteries.